Hello and welcome to Restoring Our American Republic. I'm Chuck Benoit with The Nature of Things, where we are realigning God, government, and natural law so that we might restore our American Republic. We're continuing to look at bills from our local legislators that are in the House, and we would like to possibly open up an opportunity for any of you out there that may be interested in looking into your particular legislator, or if there's legislation out there that you're concerned about that you'd like to discuss. We would love to have you on the show and discussing the information that you may be compiling. We have worked on a couple of bills from our local legislators, and today we're going to be working on another bill. HB-299. And with that, I'm going to bring my buddy Mike in. Good morning, Mike Levine.
Hello, Chuck. It's great to be with you today. And I just want the audience to understand that our objective is to get a small group of citizens monitoring every legislator in the House and the Senate, including their committee activity. And Chuck and I are going to demonstrate how that's done today on Representative Mello's bill 299, which is called, it hasn't been formally named yet, but it'll be named, the name of the bill will include the term blue ribbon projects, Chuck.
Yes, the bill states it's a bill to be entitled an act relating to blue ribbon projects.
So
And
here's the question, Chuck. What does blue ribbon mean to you, Chuck?
well, it means, top notch, right? If you're into
First
agriculture,
place, right?
your cow gets a blue ribbon or your bull gets a blue
First
ribbon.
place,
First place,
right?
yeah, there you
Well,
go.
my question is first place for who?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Again, when you get into land use and development, so we're going to get into this. This is a pretty interesting bill here, Chuck. So why don't you keep us on track and make sure I don't
Uh,
take us off into a rabbit hole somewhere?
okay, let's just go ahead and start with a few lobbyists that may happen to be uh, in favor of this bill. We have Thousand Friends of Florida. They're in here once. The Alliance
Keep
for
in mind,
Commercial.
Chuck, though, I want to correct you, Chuck. Just because they're an organization who has filed and assigned lobbyists to the bill does not mean they're for it. They can
Oh,
also be
okay.
against.
All right.
Okay, so I want the audience to be clear about that. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yeah. I guess you're right. They are lobbyists, is what they are. So, Thousand Friends of Florida is one. Alliance for Commercial Real Estate. American Planning Association, Florida chapter. They've got about six or eight lobbyists working for them. Americans for Prosperity have a couple. Audubon of Florida has three. Big Lands Transect Collaborative has, I think, at least a dozen, maybe more. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Chen Moore Associates, Florida Association of Counties are in here a good 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
Florida Conference of Catholic Bishops, and the Florida League of Cities. Again, there's about 8 or 10 lobbyists from there. Florida Local Environmental Resource Agency, Florida Stormwater Association, GL Homes of Florida Corporation, Metro Development Group, Miami-Dade County, Orange County government, Palm Beach County, and the Tavistock Development Company. So those are the many lobbyists who are involved here. Do you have any input on any or all of them, Mike?
I would say to you that we could do a whole show just talking about each of those lobbying organizations, and we haven't even introduced the firms that they hired. So I think that we've covered that to the extent that we want to cover it on this particular broadcast. But I will also suggest to our audience that if you talk to a legislator, the organizations that support or oppose legislation are actually more important to the legislator than the legislation itself. So they'll support bad bills if the right people are behind it, and they will oppose good legislation when the right people are opposed to it. So this is just the a disgusting reality of the legislature that we have because honest, heartfelt debate is not present in the Florida legislature, Chuck.
And of course, it may not be there in any legislature for that matter, but we're
Well,
concerned about
we're just
Florida.
working on Florida right now.
We're working on
But
Florida.
what we
That's right.
discover in Florida, we can definitely apply to other states. No
Yeah,
question.
there we go. And you mentioned that it was Lauren Mello who has,
Mm-hmm.
put this bill to the
Yeah.
floor here.
Who
And
is a real estate broker, and her husband is a developer, and she's from Naples.
okay, so you have some developers. Yeah, and it's HD 82 Naples. Um,
Right.
so the first little line here that we have is this subsection, I'm sorry, is created by HB 299, and the purpose is to ensure the appropriate use of important state resources. Is that what this is
Right.
about?
Yep. Yeah. So my comment on that, Chuck, would be that this is brand new legislation. This isn't something that overwrites something that already exists. This is brand new legislation, Chuck.
Yeah, I noticed that it was pretty much the whole bill was underlined like this is it. So
This is
again, it
it.
goes on.
Fresh meat.
It goes on and says the intent is to encourage large landowners to be good stewards of the environment. Now, is that exactly what's going on here, Mike?
Chuck, this whole concept of regional planning has been in place in Florida for 25 years. So this is basically a way for the state to control um, the to really the quality of life of all citizens in the state of Florida. So basically, a long time ago, there was an organization called Smart Growth, and their whole concept was to urbanize in clusters and connect by mass transportation. That was the whole concept. So as we go through the provisions of this bill, you'll see that concept of clusters of density connected by transportation uh, modals, is how they refer to it, which is this is just, in my opinion, I'm just going to throw it out there. This is just the left trying to urbanize the state of Florida, which we talked extensively about as we discussed the Live Local Act, Chuck, and also Senate Bill 180, which people who are on our side of the argument are pushing to repeal both the Live Local Act and SB 180. And the legislature responds with this bill 299. And basically, because we're outraged about the urbanization of the state of Florida, they throw in some language about resource management. But of course, once the project is approved, Chuck, all that becomes negotiable through amendments. And I'm going to turn the microphone back over to you.
Yeah, well, the next little section here is that the bill says that it's going to promote sustainable patterns of development. Well, sustainable?
We just covered it, Chuck. We just covered it. It's clusters of density. Now, and we'll get to it in a minute, but this bill does limit residential density over the scope of the 10,000 acre project or more to 12 units an acre. But when you spread 12 units an acre over 10,000 acres, that's a lot of density, Chuck. Because again, keep in mind this bill, and we'll get to it point by point. So that's what I'm saying to you. This is nothing new. This is actually Barack Obama's housing formula being proposed, and believe me, they're very optimistic that this will pass through a supermajority Republican Senate and a supermajority Republican House with a Republican governor, Chuck.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded to me like Barack Obama's Agenda 21 with a lot of flowers. Uh,
You bet.
there you go.
Next point. Let's move on.
So, well, the next point is simply the title. It creates blue ribbon projects. Um, and these
Right.
blue,
Blue ribbon for who? Right.
yeah, right. Who's the blue ribbon for?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like it's for
If there's a
developers.
first place winner, there's also a loser.
Yeah, and more than one. Um,
Exactly.
It requires local governments to implement blue ribbon projects into their boundaries. So it requires,
Okay,
it's
well,
not,
there you go.
it's,
There you go. That's the Mac Daddy gorilla in the room. Your local city council and your county commissioners have nothing to say about it. We'll talk more about that as we go through the provisions of this bill. Chuck.
yeah. Well, again, there are some flowers. They want to preserve natural areas and encourage agricultural land use and rural land stewardship, uh, protect the ecological systems and expand wildlife corridors. These are all very good things, right? Um, provide compact mixed use development supporting long
Okay.
term viability. Now, what's that
But
about?
before we move on, Chuck, and we
Okay.
talk about all the wildlife refuges and all the conservation of all that stuff, I'm saying to you that these details get negotiated out after the project is approved. I'm going to say it one more time. All of this good stuff gets negotiated out after the project is approved, and your commissioners and city council have no choice. They are legislatively, statutorily forced to not only negotiate with these guys, but to accommodate them. And that's going to come up in a future point inside of this bill. Chuck, go ahead.
Yeah. Again, provide compact mixed use developments supporting long term viability. Again, sounds good.
Mixed use means a blend of commercial uses and residential uses. Chuck,
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
So, uh, the next point, you alluded to it earlier. In order for someone to have a blue ribbon project approved, has to be a minimum of 10,000 acres, and these acres have to be all one in one place.
Contiguous.
They can't be spread out in different areas. It also has to be
Scattered would be the word. Mhm.
right, scattered, and they also have to be owned by the same person or the same organization. Um,
Right. Now, just so you know, Chuck, when I wrote my land use equilibrium paper, I recommended that land use be done in larger swaths of land. So I'm favorable about the 10,000 acre deal. And I'm also favorable that when a large property owner wants to develop their property, for them to go out and assemble the land and the land of their neighbors to be included in the plan. The big sticking point in my mind here, Chuck, is that the local city councils and county commissioners are excluded from the conversation, which means you, the citizen, is excluded from the conversation. Okay? Nobody came to the citizens of Lake County or any other county in the state of Florida and said, how would you like your county to grow? This is the state of Florida jamming it down your throat, Chuck.
yeah, yeah, I get it. It really does kind of cause me to wonder what is Republican about it. It does seem that we don't really have Republican and Democrat legislators out there. Those are just names. Might as well be. They could just as easily be the Tampa Bay Buffaloes or uh, the Miami Dolphins. They could be anything because it has nothing to do. Democrats don't govern democratically. Republicans don't Republican in a Republican form at all, and it really is a bit of a sticky point for me.
Well, if you
Um,
don't mind me jumping into a rabbit hole real quick here, Chuck, there is
please do.
legislation filed in the Florida House right now by the state representative. The young lady's name is Tant, Tant, from where? Madison, Florida. And she's a Democrat. And there's a senator. Her last name is Arrington, Kristen Arrington from Osceola County. She is a Democrat. And they have legislation proposed that rewrites the way political parties behave in the state of Florida. So the idea that Mrs. Tant is from Madison, Florida, where our executive director of the Republican Party of Florida, Bill Helmick, claims he lives so that he can get it on his voter registration card and be a state committee man, means that Ramba Consulting is using Democrats to get their political agenda done, Chuck.
There
Moving
you
on
go.
out of the rabbit hole onto the next point.
There you go. Well, again, there are some things that sound good. Like this next section is 60% of the land must be reserve areas.
And you know what, Chuck? I'm saying it again, which that's great, but I promise you that is not etched in stone. And when it all comes down and the commissioners and city councils are forced to approve these projects with no review, and keep in mind their land use, the current existing land use codes are completely eliminated and overridden. And then once the thing's approved, then all of that other stuff is going to get negotiated away, Chuck.
Right. Now, if a subject's property boundaries abuts a Florida wildlife corridor, then a portion of the project's preserve must be adjacent to the corridor. And I think that relates to something I read where they want to widen these corridors, these reserve area corridors. Um, Anything you'd like to add on that?
Just common sense.
Yeah,
That makes common
there you go.
sense. Go ahead.
Yeah. Up to 40% of the land may be development areas. Development areas, would that be
Right.
business or
It says that at least 10% must be commercial.
commercial? Okay.
So the 40% includes the entire mixed use development plan, of which 10% of the 40% must be commercial. The other 90% can be residential. And then it gets into a little breakdown of how the residential has to be done, utilizing this term missing middle housing, which we can define at your convenience, Chuck.
Yeah, I just flipped over to the bill, and let's see here. Um, Definitions under the definitions section of this talks about several different things, but it says missing middle housing. It means a range of for sale and for rent housing types, including but not limited to duplexes, triplexes, townhomes, small multi-family buildings, whatever that is, and small detached single family homes that fill the gap between larger single family homes and larger apartment buildings. So, the idea being that we may have people that want to live in a small apartment complex rather than a big one, or live in a small single family home rather than a normal sized one.
Chuck, it has nothing to do with where consumers want to live. This has
Okay.
to do with the way the government wants the land appropriated and the way developers can make the most money, Chuck. Has
Yeah.
nothing,
Well,
nobody's asking consumers what they want. If they did do that, they would wind up back to talking with your city council members and your county commissioners. But no one who supports the blue ribbon program is interested in what consumers want, Chuck.
yeah. So here's an interesting section here. A portion of the project must provide economic development and must create high wage jobs. We need high
You know,
wage
Chuck,
jobs.
I'm telling you something right now. I've seen economic development program after economic development program funded by our government at the local level and the state level, and I've yet to see one that works. Okay. Yet never seen an economic development program that works. So here's the bottom line. Here's the government gaslighting you that they want to have economic development and high wage jobs, but they're actually building houses for poor people. So if they're anticipating that they're going to be successful creating this amazing, wonderful economic development, which is going to yield high wage jobs, then they would be building more large single family homes on large lots because that's what upper middle class Floridians want to live in with their kids. They don't want to live in tiny houses and apartment complexes, whether there's 1,000 units in the apartment complex or 100, Chuck. That is not what people want to live in. So the state of Florida is saying we're going to pay lip service to this, But at the end of the day, we really don't anticipate household income significantly rising in the state of Florida. So we're going to build a whole bunch of tiny houses and apartment complexes, Chuck. That's what I hear when I read that.
There you go. Well, in our next section here, it says the area of the project that provides economic development and high wage jobs must be adjacent to transportation modes, rail, airport, well, there might be an airport in there, I guess. Development areas must have dense, walkable, mixed use, human centered, including towns, villages, hamlets, separated by reserve areas. So, I mean,
Just
they're
a
pretty,
cut and paste out of the Live Local Act, Chuck. This is
yeah,
about what is it called? They say live near your job thing, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that it's just basically a regurgitation of live local coming from Republicans.
Yeah, so in your little
Barack Obama's housing policy being implemented in Florida by Republicans.
Yeah, so if in your little complex you get a McDonald's and you'd prefer a Burger King, you need to move.
Okay, off
Okay,
to the next concept.
right. Um, Types of residential units must include single family, multifamily, attached, and detached units. Uh,
Tiny
th-
houses, Chuck. All you got to do is think tiny houses because that's what they're thinking.
yeah,
Whether they're
eh,
attached or detached, they're not going to be big, right? They're not going to have lots of square footage, right?
right.
And they're going to be, because of the 60-40 rule on the 10,000 acres minimum, 60% rural, that means that all of this density is going to be packed onto 40% of the square foot, which means that it's going to be pretty high density, Chuck. You will be living
Yeah,
on top of your neighbors and they will be living on top of you. Exactly what our forefathers warned against. They said as soon as we start living on top of each other like they do in Europe, this whole American individual rights situation is going to get a lot more complicated. And that's what this bill sells us into, Chuck Benoit.
yes. Again, you mentioned density. This basically says a maximum density of 12 units per acre. Uh,
Spread across the 10,000 acres, Chuck. So if you
yeah,
have 12, right, that's like 1,200,000, whatever it is, 10,000 times 12, whatever it is,
yeah.
120,000, right, units, 120,000 units. And keep in mind, Chuck, that a sector plan is a minimum of 1,600 acres, sectors, 1,600 acres, right? So this is about a half of a sector plan. Is that right? No. Anyway, let's move on because
Okay.
my mind isn't squared away on that concept. But I'm saying to you that I respect the 10,000 acres, Chuck. I like the 10,000 acres. I like the 40%. But what I don't like is being that specific about tiny houses and tiny apartment complexes. And I really don't like the idea that local government is excluded from the conversation. Go ahead.
Yeah, this one I guess I don't understand. Commercial maximum density 85% of impervious surface.
Right. So that means that of all the area that is dedicated to commercial, only 85% of it can be covered by concrete, like parking lots and
Okay.
buildings and
Oh,
stuff like that. Impervious, which means rainwater can't percolate into the ground.
right, right.
85% is a huge number. 85%, that means of the 10%, only 15% of the 10% has to be impervious, which means water percolates through it.
Yeah.
That's a sliver.
Yeah. Does seem to me like that's a lot of concrete.
That is a lot of concrete, Chuck.
As measured across all phases, 20% of residential must be affordable, must provide
Here we
that
go.
missing middle housing.
Exactly. So now we're going to get into go back to cross reference into what is affordable housing and all that other stuff, right? And so anyway, we've I'm a little burnout on talking about it, quite frankly, Chuck. But even the definition of affordable housing, um, includes median household income families and above, right? So you can be a median household income family and still you can be 120% of median household income and still qualify for government subsidies in your housing, Chuck. And keep in mind that the rent rates for that affordable housing is market or above, Chuck. So that is a complete when I can't say what the author of the bill's intentions were, but I'm saying to you that this puts no restraint on landlords, and I am in the business, Chuck. And this puts no restraint on landlords to charge market rent and above. That's what I'm saying to you right now about affordable housing, Chuck.
There we go. Yeah, our next point is that the project may be developed in phases. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Um,
Yeah,
Development rights
makes
and
sense.
mitigation impacts vested for at least 50 years. Now,
That means that the development rights can't be taken away from the applicant for 50 years, Chuck.
as long as they continue to
And
move along. And I guess the next thing
no,
is
no, no,
the
no, no,
vet.
no. It doesn't say subject to them moving along and hitting benchmarks or anything like that. It says once you've granted them these development rights, you cannot take them away for 50 years
Okay, well, this next
with
section
no
says,
qualifying language at all.
okay, the next section says that ventures must be extended another 25 years under certain circumstances. I thought that was if they were moving along and did some things, they have a little more time to finish it up.
Under certain circumstances was an edit that I put in so I didn't have to write the whole bill.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
But yeah, exactly. So yeah, I actually, under certain circumstances, is my comment or my editorial over the written law. But long story short, these guys have got 75 years to build this out.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, again, the project it has to have a blue ribbon development plan, and that's defined as well. The ribbon development plan, including long-term master development map, and establishing reserve areas and development areas. I mean, I guess that makes
Yeah,
sense.
well, that's just like anything else, Chuck. When you go in and you make your presentation to the authority that approves your plan, you've got to show maps and you've got to show exactly where the densities are. You've got to show exactly where the preserve areas are. You've got to be able to go in and show, where does water retention and all the qualifications that we've kind of already been through, but there are others, right? The developer, just like any other time, they've got to come in and they've got to roll out the whole thing and show that they've done their due diligence. And as we walk through this bill, we're going to see there are other requirements that are necessary in order to qualify to be a blue ribbon project. So
Yeah.
we're going to
So,
continue to talk about that. But this is just normal business as usual. When you go in and you present a development plan, you've got to show the mapping and you've got to show exactly where, various different types of commercial and residential units are going to go. And you're going to have to show water retention. You're going to have to show infrastructure, ingress, egress, street access, stormwater, all of it. So
yeah.
you're going to have to present a fully developed plan. You can't go in there with a vague lick and a promise and expect to get your project approved. But that's just
Yeah.
that's just normal in
Normal
developer
stuff.
world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, we're pretty much at the end of our time. We got barely a couple of minutes. Do we want to just do a quick synopsis of what we've said and then possibly complete this here in another broadcast?
I don't know. It's interesting. I'm interested to kind of wonder how interested the audience is in hearing more details about this. So that's up to you and me. I mean, we'll basically, if you want to cut off the broadcast because we hit our timeline, then we can do that. And I think we've already kind of expressed our opinion on this, that this is another typical um, uh, usurpation of local rule over land use development. So how um, uh, crucial each one of these stipulations is becomes moot if you don't like the plan anyway. You follow me? So I don't see I mean, so yeah, I mean, we can cut off we can cut off the session right now. And then if the audience wants more of it, then they can give us some comments and we'll bring it back up and talk about it some more. But, and of course, anybody can call me, Chuck. If you want to talk about it, I'll send over the spreadsheet to anybody who wants it. If there's a commissioner or a city councilman or a local activist who wants to see my breakdown of the bill in an Excel spreadsheet format, I'm happy to share it with everybody, Chuck.
Well, thank you so much, Mike Levine, and thank you all again for tuning into our twice weekly live stream. Please follow us on Facebook at Restoring Our American Republic, or check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic-ROAR. Please like and share the program, and remember, if you are unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. Until next time, God bless you, God bless President Donald J. Trump, and God bless America.